And one of the reasons I wanted to talk with you today before we really got going was because it's important to me in helping you learn and enjoy being here and feeling as if you have a place here, is to try to get to know what kinds of things are in your past, what your passions are.
Okay.
Now, you're from California.
Yes, I am.
Okay. And did your family for many, many generations live in California?
My father's family lived in California. I think my great-grandmother came out there when she was, I don't know, like 20, and ended up being like a Annie Oakley type of person, at least in the pictures I saw. But my mother actually moved to California when she was 5 or 6 from a small town in North Carolina called Lumberton.
Whoa. I haven't heard of that before.
Yeah, it's a tiny little town. Actually, it's most of the population, including my mother, is Lumbee Indians, which is kind of an offshoot of the Cherokee, but they are focused entirely in North Carolina.
I'm smiling because I love that.
Really?
I love that piece that you could bring in. You know, the children, as we move into the holidays, as we move into Columbus Day, and then we move towards Thanksgiving, there's a lot of thought about this land being discovered, as though it didn't exist before, or Thanksgiving about the kinds of watching football games and eating turkey without recognition of the fact that the settlers survived because of the assistance of the Native Americans, the Native people who were living here. So maybe that would be a really wonderful way for you to be able to offer something that's part of your heritage.
Yeah.
And helping the kids learn about.
I grew up, and my mom would tell me some of like the folk tales, not just from the Lumbee tribe, but from all over. And you know, I'd love to bring one of those in.
Well, we do stories every day for a half an hour after lunch. I read them stories, and when we're talking about Native Americans, I do tell them stories as though we're sitting in a longhouse, and I pull out of a pouch some little totem of some sort, and we, you know, that sets the stage. And maybe you could think of a story that you loved when you were a little boy, and you could share that with the kids.
Yeah, that would be great.
Well,
I'd love to do that.
This is a fun idea.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, that would be more of that would be a moment when, instead of sitting on the sidelines and watching the children and responding to them as you're needed, that would be a time when you would be taking on a more active role than as a teacher.
Okay.
And so that would require a lot more preparation. Then you're coming into the group's setting with an idea that you're going to develop then.
All right.
Branching from that to the way that it's really exciting to teach is in an emergent kind of a way. As you're sharing your story with them, you should really be listening to them and watching their facial expressions and letting the story, the way it unfolds, and the intonation in your voice, letting that also be a reflection of how the children are responding to it, so that it becomes very interactive instead of you sitting and reading a book.
Okay.
You're sharing something with them that's very special to you.
All right.
Great. Now, in the beginning, I know that when you first enrolled in the program, or when you first were starting now and getting your material, there was an evaluation form that you had been shown.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, on there it talks about guidelines for the kind of way in which the graduate program, would like you to be, goals that you'd be working towards as a student teacher.
Okay.
And we should probably find a time to go over that soon, and we can look at it together, and then we can review it in the middle of the semester, and then at the end of the semester we'll meet and talk about that again and see how you feel about the goals that you were working towards, with, you know, my participation in the discussion.
So you got this. And which ones were you doing, Cassie? Between 9 and 7? That's very nice. So you want to tell me how many times 7 is that?
Like the same colors.
You know, I asked you something. Can you, as you're making the same would you like to make, you know, the tips in here match the tips here? Or do you want to make them be like 1-1?
Yeah. battle eventually. How many times? Do you know how many times you've rolled a 7?
Yeah, we're
You
actually.
want to look for that?
With it?
Yeah, I'm making a pattern.
And but this, let's see, this has 6, and then 4, this is 1,
3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Numbers that are showing have anything.
Here, watch
I
this.
see you put in threes, your purple
Look over
is
here.
threes, huh?
Put your finger there and go across. You can see how many times you rolled it. Do you know what number that is?
And what do you want the whites to be?
Number that is.
1, 2, 3, 4.
That's 31.
5,
You know what that is?
5, 3.
They're odd numbers, 3 and 5.
I think
You got it 35 times.
3.
Some people want to draw pictures to go with the story that I just read to them from the Native American book, so would you?
Yeah?
A picture.
Okay. Let's get you some place mats.
Right, then you could draw a crocodile. I'm going to get you a book on snakes.
I don't know what the crocodile looks like.
Would you like me to, well, I don't know.
Hey, look, Sadie.
Here's a snake.
Dad, I have a daddy one. A daddy one.
So would you like
I found it at the beach and it was all brown.
Would you like your dice roll?
Would you like to do something about turtles or about snakes, or what would you like to do? Would you like to make a painting, a picture to go with the story I just read? Or would you like to make a picture of turtle going to war in Maine, or the rattlesnake? Or do you want to look at a book about snakes? You want a book about snakes? And what would you like to do? You want to draw a picture? Would you please, some people want to draw pictures to go with the story that I just read to them from the Native American book, so would you?
Yeah?
A picture.
Okay. Let's get you some place mats.
Right, then you can draw a crocodile. I'm going to get you a book on snakes.
I don't know what the crocodile looks like.
Would you like me to, well, I don't know.
Hey, look, Sadie.
Here's Nick.
Dad, any teeth? No. Do you have a wiggly tooth?
Snake.
Do you have a wiggly tooth? I have a wiggly tooth.
Is this crocodile a reptile?
Yeah.
So let's see if there's a crocodile. Crocodile, yes.
Another box of markers.
Did you want to draw a picture of a crocodile? Okay, wait, come sit down someplace, wherever you'd like to do.
Take.
Yes, you did.
Okay.
You want to work here?
And
All right, Clay is going to be at this table for, characters from the story. I can do this. I can do this. You know what? Would you please get the clay tools, which are behind the scissors, on the second shelf? Thank you, Sophia. Did you want to do this too? Did you want to make an animal? Which animal are you going to make? You want to do the snake too?
I'm not to do clay.
What animal are you going to do?
A crocodile. Oh. You made me zeros. We can make the mouse and everything. But snakes are easy if you just do just a straight line. Yeah. That thing's squeaky. It is. Really squeaky. Mine's
Are you
not.
going to make your snakes look like they did before Turtle made war on men? Or are you going to with their heads flat now? Are you going to, or the rabbit with the split lip and the short legs? Is it the way that looks now, or is it the way that they looked before?
Before. Yeah, before.
Because most people have never seen those animals with the shaped bodies that they used to have before they fell out of trees or had the problems that they had in the stories. Did you know that you were there when you heard about
rabbit falling out of the tree.
rabbit falling out of the tree?
I heard about turtle having a smooth shell.
Mm-hmm.
So it's cracked.
That's right.
Jordan, you're making a turtle, right?
Yeah.
You're gonna have a smooth or a cracked shell.
Looks like a rat.
Yeah.
He
books?
No.
No? You know in your brain what
I would like to see what.
of what? A snake?
Yep.
Okay, here's a book called Snake.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Did you need any books to help you with your research? What do you do? What are you making?
Snake.
You have Snake. Here's a book called Snakes also.
I'm
Anybody else
making
need
this.
research?
I'm making this. I'm making a snake.
Do you need a book on snakes
I'm
as well?
making this one. See?
And how about you?
I'm making some.
You don't need anything. How about you have your rattlesnake right there. Okay, so you need a snake book? Okay.
Is that the bakery stuff?
The powwow now sent Crow to look the situation over, for Crow was very clever. Crow at the time was pure white and had the sweetest singing voice of all the birds. But he took so long standing over the fire, trying to find the perfect piece to steal, that his white feathers were smoked black. And he breathed so much smoke that when he tried to sing, the only thing that came out was a harsh caw, caw. The council said, Possum has failed. Buzzard and Crow have failed. Who shall we send? Tiny Grandmother Spider shouted with all her might, "Let me try! I can do it!" Though the council members thought Grandmother Spider had very little chance of success, it was agreed that it would be her turn. Grandmother Spider looks like she looks now. She had a small torso suspended by 2 sets of legs and turned the other way. She walked on all of her wonderful legs towards a stream where she found some clay, like the clay you guys like to work with. With those legs, she made a tiny clay container and a lid that fit perfectly with a tiny notch for the air in the corner of the lid. Then she put the container on her back and spun a web all the way to the east, where she walked on her tiptoes. Then she picked up a tiny little piece of the fire, put it in her little bowl, and closed the lid and walked tiptoe all the way back. When she came back to the people, they didn't see any fire, so they thought she had failed. They said Grandmother Spider didn't get the fire. "Oh no," she said, "I have the fire." She lifted the pot from her back, and the lid from the pot, and the fire flamed up into its friend, the air. All the birds and animal people began to decide who would get this wonderful warmth. Bear said, "I'll take it." But then he burned his paw and decided the fire was not for the animals. For look what happened to Possum. The birds wanted no part of it, as Buzzard and Crow were still nursing their wounds. The insects thought it was pretty. They too stayed away from the fire. Then a small voice said, "We will take it. Grandmother Spider will help." The timid humans, whom none of the animals or birds had thought of much, were volunteering. So Grandmother Spider taught the human people how to feed the fire, sticks and wood to keep it from dying, how to keep the fire safe in a circle of stone so it couldn't escape and hurt them or their homes. While she was at it, she taught the humans about pottery made of clay and fire, and about weaving and spinning, at which Grandmother Spider was an expert. The Choctaw remember. They made a beautiful design to decorate their homes, a picture of Grandmother Spider, 2 sets of legs up, 2 down, with a symbol of fire on her back. This is so the children never forget to honor Grandmother Spider, Firebringer.
Oh.
That is how the story
And that
goes.
is how the story goes.
That's
Ho.
pretty. Hey.
Thank you. In the 3rd section, we talk about the curriculum
All right.
and how we're developing curriculum, provisioning for it, the role that you're taking in helping us move through the year or from one piece from the beginning through the curriculum as it unfolds. And in the last section, we will be discussing the level of professionalism that you demonstrate, which even though we haven't even gotten to it, I've been thrilled with the work
Thank
you've
you,
done. But
thank you.
there's always room for growth, so
Yes.
we'll plot in. Okay, so in the first section, it's broken down into the way that you work with children one-on-one, leading a small group, engaging the children's interest and attention, facilitating transitions throughout the day, your introduction of new activities or materials, and you're taking responsibility for the group as a whole.
All right.
What are your feelings as far as how comfortable are you with what you've been doing with the group, with individual children? How do you feel about the place that you have as a member of our classroom community?
I am definitely beginning to develop working with both the individual and group as a whole. I do struggle with maintaining that balance between individual and group, but I think if I'm working with an individual, I'm very good at focusing on that individual, and if I'm working with a group, I'm very good at focusing with the group. It's just bringing the two together that I find difficult.
You should know that this is a very, very common issue that year after year, I've been doing this since 1989, and I find that that's probably one of the biggest issues.
Okay.
People seem to get very consumed working with one child or two children at a time and become almost out of focus from the rest of the group.
Yeah.
It become myopic in the attention that's being paid. When you're working with children, do you feel as if you're able to maintain their interest or be observing them and supporting that as their ideas and ideas are bringing them into different kinds of activities they're wanting to do? Or
Yes, I believe I'm doing that. I try to follow the child's lead and
Good.
not direct them in ways that I think would be best. Granted, sometimes I still, I don't want to say intrude, but bring in my ideas at inappropriate times. And I know it's easy to have the child follow those ideas because an adult said it.
right, exactly. It's very powerful when it comes
Yes.
from a grown-up. Yeah.
So I'm trying to let them develop their own ideas at their own pace.
Nice. I am seeing you're doing that. I mean, you are very supportive. You do scaffold the moments that they come in. I don't often hear your voice over the children's. You know, your level is low, and you're able to work with them and engage them without it becoming a pronouncement to the whole group that this is now what's going to happen. I also noticed that with transitions and when we have transitions throughout the day, you facilitate that very, very smoothly. It seems to be a non-effort, and you know what's coming next, and you're able to start preparing for that in advance and getting materials ready and starting to bring children in so that it's a very gradual flow. You help maintain that as we move from beginning to the end of the day, and I'm very pleased about that. You're taking responsibility, introducing new materials, and taking responsibilities for the group as a whole. I haven't had much.
Right, I haven't had much experience with either of those activities.
How do you feel about those responsibilities? Something that's you're eager to do, or warding off a little bit?
A little bit of both.
Yeah.
I want to do that. I want to progress there, but I just need to take that step, that leap of faith to get to that point.
You will get there before we're done.
Yeah, I will. I think that's part of this whole thing. But
yeah. I'm just looking here. The column is beginning to develop, developing well, and not applicable. I think that all of these things are probably applicable at this point for the role that you have within the classroom. The developing well section is something to be striving for. There should be probably very few checks that we would put in filling out this form, and that because it's something we want to keep the marker
right.
Where it's only the middle of the semester. We still have time yet to go. Beginning to develop, I think that all of these areas from where I'm sitting, I'm seeing that you're moving in a very, very solid direction.
Thank you.
In reaching these goals. In the second section, with the children's growth, learning, and well-being, it's also the same titles to each of the columns. Getting to know the children through observation and promoting learning and well-being, interest and respect for the children and sensitivity to them, regardless of their backgrounds and the needs that they have. Supporting the individuals, again, this is similar to the first page, maintaining a sense of the group. But that also is in the learning. It's not just in your interaction with them, but in supporting the learning, so that we have such a range of ability in the classroom to be able to work with children who are especially strong in a particular area, as well as working in a very supportive and gradual way with those who need a little bit more time or a little bit another material available to them. being able to supply that is important. And then developing curriculum and instruction that provides entry for every child in the room, and not just the middle or the top kids, the most accelerated group. And how are you feeling about that? You're a keen observer, I know that.
Yes, I think I'm doing the observation fairly well.
Yeah.
And I try and understand each child's learning and how they learn best.
How are you doing that?
Just by seeing ways that they, like areas that they have strong interest in, and seeing if I can incorporate some of the other materials into those areas of their interests. So if someone doesn't like to work on math sheets or something, but does enjoy drawing, to find some way to incorporate the drawing into the math.
I was going to say that I liked the today during lunch when they were the topic of scales came up on a snake and what are scales, and I was ready to, I pulled out my snake skins from our little museum here, and as the children seemed to be more visual learners in the group rather than using language to explain that, you grabbed a bunch of snack plates.
Yes.
And you created scales for them, and I thought that was such a fun way to show them. I mean, they're probably going to walk away always remembering the plates. I heard other kids saying, "What is he doing with all those plates?" And then they're always making scales. So it was clever.
Thank you.
I like that. And again, supporting the individuals while maintaining a sense of group, that does take a while.
Right, definitely.
That takes a while, but that's why the student teaching placement exists, so that you're not responsible for doing that yet, but you can practice it in a lot of different ways. Those are things, getting into the flow of working with, of doing this, supporting the individuals while maintaining a sense of the group, is something that I would like to see more practice in for you.
Yes.
I know that you're very capable of doing it. When we get to the next section, we'll be talking about something that you recently did with the children.
Okay.
Where you really were addressing the whole group at the same time, but also were drawing in different children, and especially through theatrics. And you're definitely respectful of the children.
Thank you.
And,
yes, I try.
yeah. So in the beginning to develop and developing well, how would you rate yourself with? Because this needs to be as much an evaluation, self-evaluation as mine of you.
For beginning to develop, I would say getting to know the children through observation and supporting individuals while maintaining a group, and developing curriculum, and then developing well would be the respect for all the children.
Yeah, I see it. I see that happening as well. I mean, I do agree with you. The children are very, very comfortable. You're non-judgmental about their comments and their behavior. Or you never snicker or laugh or say anything judgmental about anything they do or their ideas. So that's a very, very key point to them feeling safe within the classroom, in ability to take risks and make mistakes and not worry about whether they're going to get in trouble for having done so. Let's see, curriculum, content, and provisioning. This is something that an area that I especially love, because developing curriculum is like my passion in teaching. So this talks about initiating and planning an activity and provisioning with follow-through, maintaining focus and keeping track of the children. And that's important when you're thinking about wanting to bring everybody into it. Right. There are always going to be people who will be on the periphery of the group and not as interested as others.
Yes.
But having an entry point for everyone so that there's something there for them to hold on to or latch onto and be curious. Keeping track of how they're moving forward, the children as an individual as well as the whole group, and making and provisioning for the quieter children, not just the ones who are most outspoken.
Yes.
The day-to-day work of provisioning, of building the curriculum, and also thinking about observations of the children, so we can learn more about them. Is this an area, did you ever come from a program where curriculum was something that was really encompassed the whole, many aspects of the day, or was it segmented?
the curriculum was very segmented, and it was given to you in a book, and that was what you taught from, was the binder.
Right.
So I never had any experience in developing my own curriculum until I came here.
So this is all new to you?
This is completely new.
And does it feel foreign to you, or does it feel comfortable? What?
It's a little bit of both. I enjoy doing it. It just kind of feels like it's like riding a bicycle almost, and learning how to ride without training wheels. And I'm wobbling and I fall every once in a while, but eventually I'll learn how to ride a bike.
Yeah. Well, and then the thing to which I was alluding in the other section was about the Native American piece, and where you, how did you feel about that? When you told the story.
I was very nervous.
Couldn't tell.
Oh, thank you. But I prepared for it, and I just hoped that the students would like it, because it is one of my favorite stories. But yeah, I felt it went well. The kids didn't seem too distracted. And
you're trying to keep them drawn in. You used different kinds of voices. You showed a lot of animation, and you were very engaged. You looked at the children as you told it. You brought some visual pieces, so that it gave them something concrete to hold on to for those who need that visual piece. The interesting thing too is that how to take what you've done now and now build upon it.
Right.
And that's where we're going to be working as we move into the second part of the semester.